Hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar offered by Thought Technology on adding HRV to your practice using our heart rate variability suite. My name is Jon Bale and I'm going to be your presenter for today. I am the application specialist at Thought Technology and I'm the designated person giving this presentation to you today. We decided when we were making this schedule a few months ago that February would be a perfect time to showcase the HRV suite and how easy it can be to add heart rate variability measurements to your clinical practice. You know, Valentine's Day just passed yesterday. We unfortunately couldn't put it then because scheduling. It's also the month of the heart, and so it's another apropos reason for us to look at heart rate variability. This is really a simple solution to a complex issue. Now, what do I mean by this? Research in the last 20, 30 years in the world of self-regulation, biofeedback, has focused heavily on heart rate and heart rate variability. It's quite clear of many of the modalities that heart rate variability seems to have one of the biggest impacts in terms of clinical applications in a wide variety of disorders and populations, and it also seems to have had the biggest impact in the research communities and the biofeedback associations. A lot of people get into biofeedback and psychophysiological assessments and self-regulation because of heart rate variability, because it's just so clear that it has such a good benefit. I mean, heart rate variability training as an assessment and a training tool is great for general stress. It's great for anxiety, depression. This means that we can actually assess these disorders, and you can see they have lower HRV scores as someone has that type of psychophysiological condition. And then if we were to train them to bring up their HRV, it actually decreases symptoms of that same issue. Same thing for irritable bowel syndrome. Great for performance enhancement in case you like to work with athletes or executives. For those of you who do neurofeedback, so brain training, HRV is usually a great staple if you do a first few sessions before going into actually the brain training aspect, because heart rate variability affects the brain and helps activate those good parts of the brain a lot of people usually want to give a nice uptick to. We even see more recently research in concussions. So again, going back to the brain, but you can train and increase heart rate variability, and that actually affects the person's healing and improvement from symptoms of the concussion. So there's a lot of research out there that says this is a great tool. It's really, really useful, and we can apply it to so many different people. Now, the question that we at Thought Technology typically get is just, how can I make heart rate variability relevant to my clients and my practice? Because people, they see the research, they go to these conferences and they hear how wonderful it is and how amazing it can be, but they're not sure how to put it in their clinic, how to bring it back home, how to apply it with their clients. And so if it's your first time looking at this, you're not really sure, how do you assess? Do you assess at all? What sort of training do you do? How do you do that training? And these are really good questions. And what I want to say to you is that it's really not that difficult. Like, with this product that we created, the HRV Suite, we wanted to address those issues of people getting confused and wondering, how do I particularly just bring heart rate variability into my world and the world of my clients? And so the HRV Suite we have that I'm going to be showcasing to you today is really just the no-strain solution of how you can bring very popular, simple applications of HRV, from assessing to training and relaxation, and how you can use that on a client in a really simple, straightforward fashion. So what is this HRV Suite that I'm talking about? Well, it's actually 4 different applications. The first one being, though, the heart rate variability assessment and report. We designed a specific assessment only looking for heart rate variability, so breathing and changes in heart rate, and we turn that data into a really easy report where after a nice simple 10-minute recording, you can have the results, and you can actually print it out in a report that shows you and your client what sort of values are good, what sort of values are bad, and gives you a quick indication of what's going on. We'll look in a second at this specific application, but I just want to quickly describe the other applications that are included in the heart rate variability suite. Included in here, we also have the respiration and heart rate variability training screens. So if you assess heart rate variability, you see their numbers are a little bit low, and you know the client's already visiting you for a condition, in which case heart rate variability can be used to improve symptoms of that. Then you can go ahead to the training. We have 5 easy, streamlined training screens that go from very simple introductory breathing tasks all the way to more complicated strong heart rate variability statistical tasks, and they go from some simple tasks for breathing to more complicated, and it's nice, streamlined, straightforward way of doing this training where it's simple for you getting started and simple for the client getting started and moving forward and getting better with that. A third aspect of the heart rate variability suite is this resonant frequency assessment. You may have heard this sort of expression or word, resonant frequency, a few times, because it's a very hot topic issue in the heart rate variability world. The idea is that every person has a specific breath rate that really maximizes heart rate variability. In which case, if you can teach the person to breathe at that specific rate, then they'll be maximizing heart rate variability and they'll be getting the best benefit from the HRV training you can do. This assessment is really just brings a person from a higher breathing rate to a lower breathing rate, and we're tracking the changes in heart rate variability the whole time, and then we identify exactly at, oh yeah, 6.5 breaths per minute. That's when the heart variability is highest. And so for people who want to know exactly what each individual's resonant frequency is, we can use this assessment to identify that. As a last little item of the suite, we have some paced breathing to relaxation. Now, it's probably obvious to a lot of you, but if you do some slow, relaxed breathing, it's relaxing in itself. It's sort of makes you more calm, makes you less anxious. If you're stressed, it sort of brings that away. Now, this is just a protocol where an individual gets to follow a breath pacer. They can start a faster rate, go to a slower rate. It has some nice, simple wave music that goes with the breathing when you inhale, when you exhale. And so it's just meant to be a simple therapeutic 15 minutes relaxation session. We're going to have a brief look at all three of these. I'll be honest, we'll focus on the first three a little bit more than the last one, but we're going to have a look at all of this and how it's really easy just to pick this up and apply it in your clinic with your clients. Rhiannon just has a quick little question of slower breathing improves heart rate variability relaxation. Is this right? Typically, yes. When someone learns to breathe slower between 5 and 7 breaths per minute, research shows that heart rate variability improves. It's the idea of heart rate variability training, but it's also them getting more relaxed on self-rating scales. All right, so at this stage, who wants to look at a PowerPoint where you can actually look at the heart rate variability suite in action? So I did a simple little introduction, and let's go have a glance at what this looks like. So I already have the Biograph Infinity program open. This is the backbone multimedia platform that the heart rate variability suite adds into. And I'm just going to click on the little quick start up here at the upper right. Now, I've used my system for quite a number of years, so I have a lot of clients listed here on the left-hand side. Don't worry about that. I've hidden their names because I don't want you realizing who these people are. On the right-hand side here, I actually have the 4 main applications of the heart rate variability suite. Like I said, we have the heart rate variability assessment, we have the breathing and heart rate variability training, we have resonant frequency assessment, and then we have some paced breathing relaxation. It's really simple to start up one of these sessions. You just select it and click OK and make sure your equipment is plugged in. Now, the heart rate variability suite measures data from 2 different sensors, actually 3 different sensors, but one of those is optional. The 2 main sensors it's looking for are actually the heart rate sensor on my finger. It's a blood volume pulse sensor, so it's getting my heart rate and my heart rate variability from my thumb in terms of the waves of blood going through it. Technically, if you want to be specific, it's called a photoplethysmograph. Have fun trying to spell that. The second sensor we look at is actually the respiration sensor. And so I have a respiration belt around my body. It just checks whenever I inhale and when I exhale. So if I stop speaking for a moment, I'm going to inhale. And when I exhale, it goes down. And there's the respiration belt. These 2 are the main sensors we use for monitoring heart rate variability, because with the blue line, we check my breathing when I inhale and exhale. And with the red line, we're monitoring that raw BVP signal, and we're calculating a lot of statistics from this in the review mode and for the report later on. Now, like I said, there's actually an optional third sensor. This suite takes advantage of a blood pressure monitor in case you want to use that. Now, depending on your practice and what your background training is, I know some physicians, doctors, and other medical professionals do like the idea of being able to check blood pressure at the same time as doing this normal assessment. And so if you want to do that, you can. It's a third sensor, which when we get back to the PowerPoint, I'll tell you the exact name of what it does. But if I mean, you've all been to a clinic before. You've all had your blood pressure taken. It's like a normal cuff. It goes around the arm. It checks your blood pressure at the beginning of the assessment, and it checks it at the end of the assessment, and you'll understand a little bit later why that's relevant. Currently, my pulse is actually sort of jumping around between 70 and 90, depending on my talking. Also, if I were to move my finger a lot, it might make some errors and create some fake signals, but that's because I'm sort of moving my hands around. Although I'm of British heritage, apparently I talk like an Italian, and so if I move my hands, it might generate some fake signals in this red bar. All right, so let's go ahead and get this recording going. We have instructions embedded into this assessment to help guide you as the clinician and your client along. Right now, I just started this first activity, and it's the recording, the standing baseline. The assessment itself is just 3 activities, and so it's a 2-minute standing baseline, followed by a 2-minute sitting baseline, and then the final 2 minutes is a paced breathing. So we want to see in the final step how they do at slow, relaxed breathing, if they're capable of that. And more importantly, we get to see how their psychophysiology changes, how their autonomic nervous system reacts to this idea of slowed down, paced breathing, and we can show that back to them in the report. Right now, my data is not looking too great because, as you might guess, when I'm talking, I'm not breathing evenly. And so this is not representative of what a normal session would look like. So if we want, let's just let myself stop talking, and I'll just breathe a little bit more normally for a second. So each of these are a little inhale using the respiration belt, and we can see how this heart rate is just sort of changing over time. Now, I'm not going to sit here through the full assessment because I don't think you guys want to see that. It's a little bit slow. So I'm actually going to quit out of this, and I'm going to go to an assessment I already recorded. Once we save any of the data in the system, we can automatically actually replay it and review it whenever we want in the future. And so this is really useful if you want to ever show this to someone else. Here's my little heart rate variability session that I saved a while ago, and I'm just going to hit the replay button real quick because we're going to jump forward a few steps. Like I said, you have the standing baseline, sitting baseline, and paced breathing. Sitting baseline activity is exactly what you might imagine. They're sitting there, and it's a baseline, and you're just wanting to see where their general heart rate variability, and breathing is when they just sit there in idle mode. The paced breathing step itself is a little more interesting because the client actually has to do something. And so at this step, they are following this breath pacer, and we're seeing if they're able to follow the breath pacer at this slow breath rate of 6.0 breaths per minute. And we want to see how that affects their psychophysiology, like I said before, compared to the 2 earlier steps. A quick question someone has is, why is the finger pulse on the x-axis, or what is the units of that? Actually, it's just a refraction of light. I didn't explain this, but the BVP heart rate sensor shines infrared light into your thumb, and based on the amount of essentially red blood cells, hemoglobin going through, it gets a ratio of that light shined back at the sensor. And so this number that we see in the x-axis of the raw BVP signal is just a representation of that light. We gather our heart variability statistics from this. We just like to look at this raw signal to make sure that it's clean data and not artifact data. The breath pacer rate can be changed, but for the assessment, we want to keep it as such because it's really a test to see how the person reacts to this, knowing nothing else about them potentially when they come into the clinic. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to go and jump into the report because this assessment is it's simple and straightforward. You stand, wait, you sit, wait, and then you sit and follow a breath pacer as best as you can. This assessment takes up to 10 minutes, so it's really easy to fit it into that format of the normal 1 hour or 55-minute session you might have with a client. Someone's asking, is there a way to see heart variability as it changes with the respiration rate? That is definitely possible, and we're going to go see that in a moment. So it's nice and nifty what we can do with this system. Someone's also asking if we can use an EKG heart rate sensor with the HRV Suite. Currently, no. It was meant to be as simple and straightforward as possible, so we only use the BVP sensor right now. I'm going back to that assessment session. I'm just going to open it in review mode. One of the cool things is that with this Biograph software, once we record data, we can then analyze the statistics in a variety of ways to get the type of information that we want to see. And so Right now, it just opened up in review mode, and there's a few different ways we can visualize data, and we've split that up to different little screens we call between numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, a lot of these graphs look pretty complicated if you don't know what you're looking at, and so they can be confusing, but I'm going to simplify this really, really easily for you. We can see right here in this line graph up here, this is the general heart rate variability statistic we all like to look at. It's called the interbeat interval. It lets us know how much time is occurring between each heartbeat. Notice how at the beginning here it looks a little bit sort of fluctuated. There's a lot of like jagged movements. This is the first activity when the person is just standing there with their hands at their side. Notice they sit down, it gets a little more even, and there's nice even waves. So it means their nervous system is sort of relaxing. It's increasing the variability, the heart rate variability. And then when we actually have to do the paced breathing further over here, notice it becomes much larger waves. We're seeing clear indications in heart rate variability how their body changes based on whether they're standing, sitting, or whether they're doing that slow, relaxed paced breathing. Now, trying to analyze this stuff can be complicated, and we realize that. Clinicians knew this, they're not sure what to make of it, and that's okay. Like that's a normal starting point. One of the good things we did with this report that we can generate from this is that we do a lot of the work for you and make it as easy as possible. And so I'm actually going to click on this little printer icon up here, and I'm going to generate the Excel report that we've linked to this specific heart rate variability assessment. And so Microsoft Excel is going to open up this report, and we're going to see instantly that we're getting ratings of different statistics for each activity, so standing, sitting, and paced breathing. And we're actually getting some arrows to indicate what we expect or should have occurred ideally. So when it's green, it means the value ideally or should have gone down or gone up. And when it's red, it means the value didn't go in the direction that exactly we expected. We can see right here for example, heart rate mean. I was at 81 beats per minute when standing. It went down when I was sitting. That makes sense. My nervous system's working a little less hard. I get to sit down. I get to maybe slouch a little, relax. But then suddenly, when I started doing this paced breathing, or when this person started doing this paced breathing, their heart rate actually increased. You would expect for it to, in general, go down more. And so that's an interesting change. Maybe they're distracted. For some of the heart rate variability metrics, we see how actually when the person's standing, it's at a certain value. Some of the values went down, which is not what we expect. When your nervous system gets more relaxed, we expect heart rate variability to increase. But then paced breathing radically changed that. I'm going to scroll down. We have some blood pressure data here. So we can see at the beginning of the activity, he had slightly higher blood pressure than after the final activity. So we can see a change over the 10 minutes cycle. And we even have some other statistics arranged in the pie charts. If you're familiar with frequency domain metrics, so this is the bread and butter of the heart rate variability industry, you'll recognize that there's an even split in autonomic nervous system functioning. And then as this person sat down and then when they started paced breathing, this pink area took over. And that pink area represents the balanced nervous system, the good autonomic nervous system that we're hoping to encourage by doing that paced breathing. So this shows the person instantly the changes that occurred to their body during the assessment, and also indicates to us that this person actually has a pretty good nervous system in terms of heart rate variability. They have a lot of good power in that pink range that represents the low frequency. Now, these numbers are confusing. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we have limited time, and there's tons of great resources that I'm going to talk about a little bit later where you can get more information. But on the second page here, we actually have the Word version of the report, and so it helps us with interpretation. It tells us what we're looking for, and it tells us how things change. And we have a nice little table that says when values went up or when they went down. And this is actually a report that you can print out and immediately hand to your client. So they don't need to see these numbers. It gets confusing as heck for them. But what they get is a Word report that indicates what happened, what was good, what was bad, and they can have that in hand following their initial heart rate variability assessment with you in that very first session. And so this is a great tool, this assessment and this report, that you can bundle together in one session with the client. They get a better idea of what just happened to them, and they get an idea, oh wow, I can work on this with you. I can come back to you and I can improve on these numbers, and I can learn how to do that. I'm just having a look over the questions. Some people are definitely asking about primary numbers when it comes to heart rate variability. And so a quick little comment is that it depends on who you're asking and who thinks what numbers are most valuable. There's a pretty wide variety of numbers here, and so I can't go into full details, but I'll let you know that SDIR is one of the older heart rate variability statistics. People still like it for research, but maybe it's not too appropriate for clinical work these days, according to Don Moss. Heart rate max minus mean is a value people like to use when it comes to respiration sinus arrhythmia. So checking when there's coherence between your breathing in and increasing heart rate, breathing out, decreasing heart rate. And then these frequency domain metrics are the powerful statistics that have really high exactitude. And they represent very low frequency for VLF, low frequency for LF, and high frequency for HF. And we can look at those in a variety of ways, but I can't go into details because people can speak about these for hours. But I can, again, like I said, at the end, I'll refer to some resources where we can look at it, where you can check out more information on that. The data here is not currently compared to a database, just so you know. I mean, we have some interpretations how we expect the data to change, but as you get more comfortable with heart rate variability data, you will learn that heart rate variability information depends on the person's age, their activity level, depends on what condition. You know, someone with depression has lower heart rate variability scores, someone with anxiety has lower heart rate variability scores. And so these are things to take into account. Again, I'll mention some resources at the end about that. Now I'm going to move along from looking at this report, and let's instead jump into the second aspect of the heart rate variability suite. We looked at the HRV assessment, so let's jump on and look at the breathing and heart rate variability training. So if someone has low heart rate variability, or if they have trouble breathing slowly, you want to teach them how to achieve that good breathing. Is going to help them get relaxed, it's going to help them increase heart rate variability. Now right here I opened up the respiration HRV training session, and there's currently 5 different displays selected. These are normal. I can jump between them by clicking on them. Some of them look similar, some of them look different. The idea when we design this is that we're trying to streamline the process. We're making it easy for you and the client to understand what's going on, and therefore get greater benefit out of the therapeutic process and the skill acquisition phase. So currently, screen number 1 is meant to be the easiest of activities, and this is just looking at breathing. It's trying to teach someone to take even breaths, and not necessarily slow breaths, but just learning how to even out that breathing. When someone's breathing at a general rate of between 5 and 7 breaths per minute, the ball will move to the center. When they're breathing too fast or erratic, the ball will move to the right, like right now since I'm talking. And if they're breathing much too slow, it'll move off to the left. So let me just give me a second. There you go. So if I do more relaxed breathing at 7 breaths per minute, the ball goes to the center. And this is the start of your acquisition phase. You're teaching someone to take even breaths. Maybe they breathe from their chest more than from their belly. You want to teach them to breathe from their belly first. And so, again, just teaching them to have that even acquisition phase. Once they're ready to move on from there, they can maybe look at a breath pacer. That's actually screen number 2, the second visual display. Maybe they're having trouble just doing that even breathing. Maybe having this pacer right here be useful. You can have them look at the computer screen and they can get to follow this ball. Where the ball goes up, they inhale. When the ball goes down, they exhale. And this can help teach them that slower breathing. Maybe they're already breathing at a higher rate, nice and evenly, and you want to slowly bring them down. So if they breathe naturally at 14 breaths per minute, bring them down maybe to 13, and then 12 and 11. You can use this pacer to teach that. Currently, it's by default, it's moving at a rate which makes someone simulate 6 breaths per minute. But if we want to change that, all we have to do is right-click, and we go to the Edit Pacer Settings, and we can change everything about this pacer rate. So it's nice and simple, and you can modify it to what best suits the client's needs. I'm just looking over some questions. Someone's asking for the animation with the woman. They're asking, is her right hand sympathetic activation and her left hand parasympathetic activation? In general, I can say yes. However, understanding of heart rate variability is much more complicated than that. And so I'm going to say that her right hand is actually faster breathing rate, and her left hand is slower breathing rates, where the balance is really keeping the ball in between the two. Left would be too slow of a breathing rate. Right would be too high of a breathing rate. When a person learns to slow down their breathing to an acceptable rate here, we can actually move on to a little more of an advanced screen where we're adding a new element. So notice it looks almost exactly the same as the first two, so we're not trying to confuse anyone. But what's changed here is that we're now introducing this red line. So we're introducing the idea of also looking at the heart rate and not just the breathing. And so at this point, we can now monitor their breathing, monitor their ideally slow or even breathing, and see how the heart rate changes with that. This animation up here actually is a little bit different. Now it's following the coherence. So whenever I inhale, if my heart rate increases, and if I exhale, my heart rate decreases, and check to see if they're doing it in time. Now let me just give me a second to actually do this and show you some real information instead of just me talking. We had a decent little RSA there for a bit. The ball is going to the middle because whenever I inhale, the heart rate goes up. When I exhale, it goes down in unison. And now the ball is probably going to fall out of condition a little bit. We still have the pacer on the side. I actually wasn't following the pacer because the pacer set a little bit too quick because I was playing around with a different client before. But this is, again, an example of how we introduce the idea of heart rate variability, how the heart is now a function of their breathing exercise they already learned previously. If we were to jump to screen 4 or 5, you get a choice here of what sort of heart rate variability statistic you want to look at. Screen 4 looks at the more powerful heart rate variability statistics of spectral frequencies. So those very low frequency, high frequency. To make this simple, what it really means is just measuring autonomic system activation. And when these 3 bars are green, the person is doing good, slow, relaxed breathing. If they start breathing too quickly, the bars will turn red, and they'll be not achieving that nice balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic activation. Screen 5 is just a different heart rate variability statistic. It's not better or worse. Well, it's not as exact, but people like this. This is the heart rate max minus min. So it's really just the difference between the fastest heart rate when I inhale and the slowest heart rate when I exhale. I'm just checking what the difference is in that. This animation is associated with that change in signal. When it's a really low signal, our mild-mannered reporter reappears. When it's a high signal, it changes into a superhero type person, and we want to ideally see him as a superhero. Just looking over the questions. Someone's asking me if I manually set the screens to be 1 to 5 before the training. This is actually automatic. We select these 5 screens because these are ideal, easy choice. They go from a range of easy to more difficult. 1 is always going to be easiest, starting exercise with someone. 4 and 5 are always going to be the more advanced, more difficult ones, and the ones in between that are just easier versions of that. Someone's asking me to look back at those 3 little bars I looked at a moment ago right here. These just represent autonomic nervous system arousal or activation. Autonomic nervous system balance, should I say. If someone has a nice balanced nervous system, ideally these 3 bars are going to be green, and they'll maintain being green. Ideally, this center one will go up, and the other 2 will go down. And whenever these are green, we get this little archer firing at a target. Now, I'm talking to you guys. I'm a little bit stressed. This is not exactly ideal. This is really fluctuating a lot. But the goal is that a person will have learned to do slow, relaxed breathing. They'll already have experience with heart rate variability, and this is really a test of their mastery of the topic. Now, because we're limited on time, I do have to keep moving, but just so you know, these are the 5 ideal training screens that people find really useful. You're not meant to go through them all in one session with a client. You might start with 1, maybe get to 2, but these are just steps you go with someone. It takes some time to learn how to do even breathing. It takes some time to learn how to slow down that breathing. It takes time to really see the change in heart rate variability and have them practice on their own without the help of a pacer. So these are just little steps, little exercises you use with your clients, and you see how they react to it. Maybe they learn quickly, maybe they learn a little slowly, but you have these 5 choices here that really go from easy to more complicated, and it's all available and easy click. At the very end of the session, when I end it, you do get some averages for the whole session, so you can track these averages over multiple sessions, and you're going to be able to have clear numbers that show, they're getting better at increasing their heart rate variability. This is good. You can show that back to them too. I'm not going to save this session because it's not important for me to do that in this example. Let's jump over to the third of 4 applications of the Heart Variability Suite. This is the Resonant Frequency Assessment. If you recall, I gave you a quick little 1-minute introduction to the idea of resonant frequency. The concept that's been validated by a ton of research is that each individual person has a certain breath rate, generally between 7 and 4.5 breaths per minute, where their heart rate variability is going to be highest at that specific breath rate. The idea with this assessment is that we start them off at a higher breath rate, and we slowly bring them down to this range, to the lower breath rate. And then in review mode, we can check the data, and bam, we'll know exactly at what breath rates they have the highest heart rate variability. And so as they get more comfortable with slow breathing, we have them trained toward that exact value. This is what performance people focus on with their athletes, with their executives, learning to breathe at that exact rate. A lot of the research when it comes to anxiety, depression, irritable bowel syndrome, concussion, things like that, also do the same thing. You test for resonant frequency, you make them train at that specific breath rate that maximizes the heart rate variability. So like with all the other screens, or like with the original assessment, there's some quick instructions here. Verify signal quality and click the button. And what the person now has to do is just follow this breath pacer. It starts at 8 breaths per minute and goes down to 5. And you can change this if you want to, but this is just the suggestion right now. And as the ball goes down, I exhale. As the ball goes up, I inhale. I'm not really following it because I'm evidently talking to you all. But this 15-minute assessment is a bit long, but this is how we get that perfect measurement of exactly what breath rate works for that individual. It is important to do this for different people because there's a wide range of causes why someone might have a slightly higher breath rate and maximize heart rate variability, or slightly lower. Lung capacity, size of the person, male, female, age, these things do affect it. And so that's why this type of assessment is really useful. Now, how about I actually go to a session that we've already recorded and I show you what the review mode looks like so you can actually see how I identify this resonant frequency in a really easy way. I'm going to go back to where I saved some data, and I'm going to choose my resonant frequency right here, and I'm going to go into that review mode where I can look at those statistics and gather out the information I want to look at. So we have one screen where we can correct for artifacts. If you, in case, are really bad at putting the sensors on a person and there's a lot of fake signals, you can remove that. It's definitely possible, and that makes statistics more specific for your specific client situation. I'm going to jump over to a screen where it lets me look at all the data at once. Right here, I'm going to show all the data at once, and we're going to look for that resonant frequency. Down here in this lower graph in yellow, you can see there's a yellow wave moving up and moving down. This is looking at a certain heart rate variability statistic. It's the low frequency amplitude. When it's highest is when the person has the highest heart rate variability that you ideally want to train to. Notice how there's these little peaks here. And so maybe they had a little hard time breathing at a fast rate, maybe they weren't focusing so much, but notice how the peaks rise and they fall, they rise, they fall. But then there's this trend later on as they're slowly rising and falling not as much. And right up here, we have this highest point right there. We actually have the line sort of marking it out already. You can see these little vertical lines going to it. This marks exactly the breath rate that we should be training the person to. So that is when they had their resonant frequency, the best breath rate to achieve the highest heart rate variability. This was actually at 6 breaths per minute. And so for this individual, they need to breathe at 6 breaths per minute to maximize their heart rate variability and get the greatest benefit from this type of slow, relaxed heart rate variability training. It's that simple. It's that easy. It doesn't have to be something hard. The software does most of the work for you. You just have to click and let it jump forward and show you what it wants you to know. So last little thing I want to show to you guys before we just open up some questions with remaining time is the paced breathing relaxation task. This itself is a nice little 15 minutes. I said it was 14 minutes before. This is a 15-minute fixed script where the individual just goes from a slightly higher breath rate to slightly lower. They have some nice ocean noises. And so whenever you breathe in, it's sort of a wave. And then when you breathe out, it's the waves coming out. And they're just supposed to sit here and just experience this slowing down of their breath and experience this relaxation activity. They have the nice sounds that really sort of push that relaxation experience. This type of activity is not so much necessary for you, the clinician, to be with them. But let's say you just want to finish off a nice exercise session with them, getting this relaxation going. So they feel good about the session. They have a nice, good feeling at the end. You can turn on this session and you can just leave them alone for 10 minutes and come back towards the end and just ask them, like, did that feel good? Did that pace breathing, that relaxed breathing feel good? There's good noises. Chances are they're going to say yes. When I do this, I often get really relaxed and have a chance of falling asleep, which is a little bit of a danger when you do that at work. But it's an excellent type of therapeutics add-on right towards the end of the session if you want to do that. Nice, easy relaxation as they follow the breath pacer. All right, with that, that's actually the majority that I wanted to talk about this software, at least in terms of showing you the software in action. Let me go down, let me just jump back to my PowerPoint so I show you a little bit more specifics about the rest of the components of this software, or should I say the actual hardware and sensors that are sort of glossed over. We do have one more question though. Julie's asking, do we need to be aware of artifacts at the point where the yellow line peaks? Ideally, yes, but if you remove the artifacts, then the system reanalyzes the statistics to be appropriate without the fake signals from those artifacts. And so if you do the artifact correction, which, I mean, the manual talks about it, and we also teach how to do it, then you don't need to worry about the stats, because after artifact correction, the stats are already going to be modified to be appropriate and representative of real information. That's one of the other good things about the software system. You can take out bad data that clearly is not representative of real psychophysiology, and then you only have the good data left behind. So, jumping back in here, we looked at the 4 aspects of the heart rate variability suite. Also, these delightful little heart icons. Clearly, the Valentine's Day theme was going strong when I decided to do this. I did mention at the very beginning of the heart variability assessment the sensors we're using, but here's some actual pictures of what they look like. So we have the respiration belt. It's around your abdomen. This is a nice thick fabric cable. It extends to a variety of sizes. One sensor can be made to be small for children or very small adults, medium as well as extra large and large. It really does stretch to quite large enough size. And it's quite easy to place. It just clips around, and that's how it measures the inhalations and exhalations of the individual. The heart rate sensor that we use, it's called the blood volume pulse sensor, or again, if you're technical, photoplethysmograph. We use that to measure the heart rate by placing it on the fingertip. And from that heart rate, we get the heart rate variability statistics that we're interested in. It's, again, super easy to put on a person. Unlike the EKG heart rate sensor, you don't have to take the person's shirt off. You don't want to have to get awkward with that sort of thing. So you just put it on their finger, and they're nice and easy to go. They just leave their hand in their lap. I did mention the optional blood pressure monitor. This is not specifically made by Thought Technology, but it's made by A&D Medical, definitely another FDA-approved company. This blood pressure monitor is, well, it runs exactly like you've already seen blood pressure monitors run. The software automatically tells it when to take the person's blood pressure, so you just have to have the cuff already around their arm. And then it'll do that at the very beginning of the heart variability assessment, and it'll do it at the very end. If you want, you can include this in training. Not specifically your training with blood pressure, but you can do breath training, heart variability training, and you can actually initiate the session tell the system to start measuring the blood pressure. You can do that every 2 minutes, and you can actually see over time, look, see, we've been doing this breath training. At the beginning, you had a higher blood pressure, and now after doing 20 minutes of this and you're getting used to it and you're feeling more relaxed, notice how your blood pressure went down. It's like an automatic link for them. They understand the idea of blood pressure. They see their blood pressure is going down. This is great. Like it's fantastic. It's maybe weird, heart rate variability training, but suddenly it's linking to something they already know, and it makes them realize they are getting benefit out of this, and what you're doing is really going to help them in the long run. As an aside, these are the actual names, the official names of the blood pressure units that you can get from A&D. One is the unit itself. The other is the cable to plug into the computer so that it runs properly. And you have to order both of these. You can get it directly from their website or Amazon. I like going to Amazon. Someone's asking, quick question, what conditions can heart rate variability be used on? Well, quite a variety. You can check out some really good resources. AAPB is a nice website that'll give you information on that, but it's good for general stress, anxiety, depression, IBS, concussions is another fun new research on that. It's good for performance enhancement. I'm really just focusing on a few of them, but there's a lot of things where heart rate variability is applicable. I also have another question from someone else where they're talking about one of the new applications we have. And so someone's asking if the TPS sensor that Thought Technology just recently released, does it complement this system for assessing and reporting? Actually, it does. The TPS sensor measures heart rate variability along with temperature, skin conductance, and that you can be lent to a client so they can practice these exercises that you're doing in a clinic with them, and they get a chance to have this sensor where they can practice at home using their smartphone and tablet, and they themselves can really know if they're doing a good job at home, and then when they bring it back to you, you can see the reports on the results of how well they did. In fact, the system actually sends a report to your email as they do it, so you know exactly when or if they bother training. I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end and make a reference to another video we made about this topic. Evidently, when it comes to recording data from these sensors, the sensors have to plug into something. And so the Heart Rate Variability Suite is usable with these three encoders, any of the Procom encoders. It was originally designed for the Procom 2, the simple unit that only takes data from two sensors, because we wanted it to be a nice introductory software suite. You know, people getting to heart rate variability, they only need these two sensors, and so they just need that encoder. But the fact that this suite has been so wildly popular, we expanded it over to the Procom 5 and Procom Infinity. So for people who have more advanced biofeedback tools for full stress assessments, performance enhancement, neurofeedback, things like that, they can also use the Heart Rate Variability Suite on these higher level ones. As a final requirement for the Heart Rate Variability Suite, well, evidently you have to own the suite. And you also have to have the Biograph Infinity program. Biograph Infinity program is the backbone for all the multimedia, the sound, the applications for the Heart Rate Variability Suite. So Heart Rate Variability Suite is really just an add-on into the Biograph program. And so you have to have the Biograph to run Heart Rate Variability Suite. Now, I'd like to just point this out. If you guys are interested in the Heart Rate Variability Suite, it's the retail price is $225 American. Now, depending on your country and region, the price might be different. Again, importation fees and things like that. If you wanted to get started with HRV and you do not actually have any biofeedback equipment, we actually have the full HRV starter system. So that includes all the equipment I listed before, with the exception of the blood pressure monitor, because that's sold by a different company. And we have this all bundled together as just a little higher than $2,300 US. Again, this retail price is subject to regions. Just so you are aware, though, if you are considering looking at a full HRV starter system, you can always send me an email a little bit later. But we have a special going on till the end of February to mark, month of the heart, Valentine's Day themed month. This is on special for only $2,000, so that's a pretty good saving of $370 according to the retail price. And so that's definitely something to consider and consider soon if you want to look at that. Now, I'm going to... Oh, there you go. I have one more item to discuss before I open up the table to questions. There are a variety of learning tools available to you all. Now, obviously, this webinar is a pretty quick format. We can't possibly go into all the details of how you do this and how you do that. It's really just to wet your whistle, dip your toes in the water, get an idea if there's something that would interest you. Thought Technology does offer online and on-site training, though. And so typically, people who get started with the HRV Suite, I sit down, and it's a 4-hour online course or in-person course if you want me to go to you or if you can come to us. And we'll go over every single aspect of the software, how to change all the parameters, understanding the data, understanding all the statistics, how do you artifact fake data out of it. We go over every single part of that over 4 hours. And so that is definitely an option for any of you that are interested in learning how to use this more proactively, more specifically, while being guided by someone like me who knows how to do this quite well. So that is definitely an option for you. Other learning options is that Thought Technology, we often present at conferences around the world. So if a psychophysiology, biofeedback, neurofeedback type conference is near you, or if you're going to one, check to see if we're going to be there, because chances are we'll have some time to do some lessons, or we're already going to have a workshop running. In March of 2017, I'll be presenting in Chicago at the AAPB conference, and so we'll be talking about a little bit of heart rate variability there, but a lot of other modalities too. And so if you want to come find us there, it's possible. And you can also check for where we might go next, because we talk about this stuff in person too. As a last option, there's also plenty of good recordings and resources available online. AAPB is a good resource for webinars where they talk about different clinical conditions, different clinical applications of biofeedback tools. And so heart rate variability is a popular one there. BCIA is a popular one as well, where people want to get certified for doing biofeedback or heart rate variability, as well as neurofeedback, and they have good webinars. BFE, the Biofeedback Federation of Europe, I like them. I am biased. Before I came to Thought Technology almost a year ago, I worked for them, and so I did a lot of online education and training there. These are plenty of good resources we can look for. And again, when you see my email at the end, if you can contact me if you're looking to know a little bit more about these types of courses or options. It's not the end. Don't you worry. We just get to stare at a silly little dancing heart because, again, I'm a sat for Valentine's Day. We have to look at this at least while we'll look over some questions. So if any of you have any questions right now on anything I discussed, please let me know because I'm happy to go over that. So someone's asking if they can use a little bit of an older BVP sensor. Sharon, we're going to have to contact you about that. I like these questions. Some of these are extremely specific and not appropriate for the general audience. Someone's asking if there's any discounts if you were to go to the conference. Well, we can always talk about that if you were to run a media conference. Thought Technology has been known to give discounts if you like to show up in person and say hello, because we always love meeting people in person. So I suspect there might be a possibility for that. Some people are asking very specific questions about heart rate variability statistics, and I'm going to answer those by email just because they're not appropriate for the general audience. This is very much introductory stuff. If you've ever been to one of the conferences, people can talk about these stats for hours upon hours. In the context of 10 minutes, it just might be a little bit difficult for me to do. Someone's asking about the February special price on the HRV Suite. Unfortunately, the HRV Suite remains that same price, and so that same retail price, should I say. It's the special is only for the whole HRV starter system if you're buying all the equipment to get it all together and usable all at once. Someone is asking if they can get access to some of the other webinars we do. Well, yes, you can. At Thought Technology, we're actually really excited about this webinar format we've set up, and we're going to continue to set this up. And if you ever want to look back at some of the old webinars, you can do so by going to the Thought Technology website, like I am right now. Go over here to training, go to webinars. You can see a list of upcoming webinars, but there's this nice little previous webinars tab right here. So if you click on this, you can see some of the older events. One in particular I'd like to point out is where I discuss the TPS sensor. So this is the new sensor we just released for home use. It's essentially a sensor you give to a client where they get to practice their heart rate variability, breath training, temperature training, or skin inductance training at home using a smartphone or a tablet. And whenever they practice, a report can be sent to your email to let you know when they practice and what sort of results they got. And this is really just a nice tool that gives them concrete information when they're not seeing you that week, and they get to keep practicing their skills. They get to know if they're doing well, and then they come back to you. They can talk about that and maybe do a little more advancements and do some different exercises or move ahead with the therapy or the treatment as such. I'm just looking over some more questions. I'm glad that some people are thanking me for the presentation. They already like the HRV Suite. I'm glad you enjoy the HRV Suite. I think it's a great tool just because it's so streamlined. It makes sense. It's exactly what people need. They need to be guided on how to do this, and they don't need 20 million choices of different visualizations. It can be made simple. It can be made clear, and that's what Thought Technology did with this suite, and that's why I'm really, really happy about it. Someone's asking if I can provide references and resources like I mentioned before. I was actually going to say at those 3 different choice groups, should I say right here? Let me just jump forward. AAPB, BCIA, and BFE, they actually give some really good clinical resources of what to look for. And so those are definitely good starting points. Personally, in terms of a book, I'm a big fan of Ina Kazan. Her Handbook to Biofeedback and Mindfulness. I have worked with her though, so again, I'm biased, but I think she introduced the subject matter of heart rate variability specific to the different clinical cases in a very clear and concise manner. So if a beginner wants to get started, looking at that information is really, really easy to understand. It's explained really well. And it also gives links to the direct research in case you're looking for that. Otherwise, these 3 resources have definite great indications of where to go. AAPB also has a lot of the explanations of what big research articles came out that sort of give synopsis of different modalities and different disorders, and so you should check out their website. Someone is asking when the TPS sensor will be available for Apple. It's still in development. We're still waiting to get more feedback from people to know how it's going, but yep, we definitely want to extend that to the Apple platform for that secondary sensor, the one that's for at-home and mobile training. Someone's asking if the Thought Technology provides courses about directly interpretation of data. Unfortunately, we really focus on the technical uses. As an FDA-regulated, Health Canada, Euro-compliant company, we make sure that we stick to the technical realm. And so we leave a clinical instruction up to some clinical individuals that we invite and we also give reference to. And so I know at the BFE they have some good resources for interpretation, same thing at AAPB and BCIA in terms of webinars and online education, as well as if you go to those conferences, we help out with that. But directly, we tend to focus on the technical just because that's where we're good and we don't want to overstep our bounds by telling clinicians how they should intentionally be training their clients in the sense of what value is good, what value is bad. We help assist based on research that's been peer-reviewed, but we don't want to be directly that person that tells everyone what is high, what is low, what is the range. All right, some people are asking for copies of the PowerPoints. I have no problem giving out PDFs, so I'll let you know how to get access to that. We'll also let everyone know how they can review this recording. Since it is being recorded, we'll send out a private link to everyone who attended this live session. As one last comment, if you are interested in signing up for some online education with us where you get direct training on how to use the HRV Suite from myself or someone else, you can also check out for more information by going to this training section of the same ThoughtTech website and just going to online courses right here. And this is where you can learn more information about how to set up scheduling and what the costs are. You can also otherwise just directly email workshops@thoughttechnology.com and that'll link you through to the individual who arranges these courses and books times and things like that. All right, so this is your last chance for any questions. Well, I give you a chance to sort of type that out and decide what you might want to say. I just say thank you very much, everyone, for attending this session. Thank you very much for these great questions. I really have enjoyed it. I also hope you tolerated my sappy hearts everywhere. I really toned it down after someone told me it seemed like an 8-year-old girl created this PowerPoint. I understand. Someone just wasn't in the spirit. Didn't feel the love of the heart this year. It's okay. If between now and sometime later this week you have any questions about this presentation or the material, feel free to email me at jonbale@thoughttechnology.com. I have no problem answering questions, and so I'm happy to receive those messages. Also, if you have any questions about the equipment, software, things like that, again, send me the email and I'll give you an answer. I'll gladly direct you to an individual who has a better ability to answer that question. All right. All right. Looks like everyone is saying goodbye and thank you. So thank you again once more. Thank you for thank you for attending. And I hope to see you all during the next webinar that we'll be hosting. We have not set the schedule yet, but so I'm told it's actually going to be the release of a new peak performance suite aimed specifically at training athletes and executives. It's been in the work for a few years. We're really excited. It's going to look really, really good. And so I hope you keep your eyes and ears open for that. All right. That being said, thank you very much again, and we will see you all sometime soon. All right. Bye-bye.